What's up, Commanders fans? Welcome back to Commanders HQ, your go-to source for all things Washington Commanders. The offseason is in full swing, and you know we're here to keep you updated on everything happening with our squad. Before we dive into today's big story, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a breaking update. Let's get into it. So, let's talk about the latest bombshell that's shaking up: the NFL, Myles Garrett, and the Washington Commanders. Could the all-pro pass rusher be heading to DC? Let's break it down. Shortly after Myles Garrett went public with his trade request before Super Bowl LIX, speculation went wild. One NFL analyst, Nick Shook, named the Commanders as the best candidate to land the star defensive end. But is there any truth to that? And more importantly, does it even make sense for Washington? According to Commanders insider John Keim of ESPN, Washington might not have the trade capital to pull off a deal that would satisfy Cleveland. The Browns will likely demand a king's ransom. Think multiple first-round picks. The Commanders currently own the 29th overall pick in this year's draft, along with future first-rounders. But is that enough to entice the Browns? Keim speculates that at least 2 first-round picks would be the starting price, and that depends on where those picks land. Here's where things get interesting. Browns GM Andrew Berry and head coach Kevin Stefanski have publicly stated that they have no plans to trade Garrett. But we all know how the NFL works. Never say never. If Washington were to make a blockbuster offer, could they change Cleveland's mind? Let's assume for a moment that a trade is actually on the table. Would Garrett be the missing piece to push Washington over the top? At 29 years old, Garrett is still in his prime and remains one of the most dominant defensive players in the league. He's coming off yet another all-pro season, consistently racking up double-digit sacks and wreaking havoc in opposing backfields. Pairing him with an up-and-coming defensive front in Washington could be a game-changer. And let's not forget the Dan Quinn factor. The new Commanders head coach is a defensive mastermind, and if there's anyone who could maximize Garrett's talents in a new system, it's him. Here's the good news. Yes, Washington can absolutely afford Garrett. The Commanders have a projected $82.21 million in salary cap space. That number could jump to nearly $100 million if they move on from veteran defensive tackle Jonathan Allen, who has already requested a trade. With that much financial flexibility, the Commanders could not only acquire Garrett, but also extend his contract, ensuring he stays in Washington for years to come. With Jaden Daniels on a rookie contract, this is the perfect time to make a bold move and invest in a superstar defender. One factor that could work in Washington's favor is the team's drastic improvement in the annual NFLPA report card. Just a year ago, the Commanders were ranked dead last, with players frustrated over ownership, facilities, and team culture. But under new owner Josh Harris and the leadership of Adam Peters, Washington has surged to 11th place. This matters because it makes Washington a much more attractive destination for top-tier talent. The Commanders are no longer a dysfunctional franchise. They're a team on the rise, with a respected head coach, a promising young quarterback, and a front office committed to winning. If Garrett is looking for a fresh start, why wouldn't he want to come to a franchise that's trending upward? All right, let's talk football. Our Washington Commanders had a season to remember in 2024, making an incredible turnaround from being one of the worst teams in the league to one of the very best. Now, the focus is on making this squad even stronger for a Super Bowl run in 2025. And let me tell you, head coach Dan Quinn and GM Adam Peters aren't playing around. They want this team to attack. With the NFL scouting combine in full swing and free agency just around the corner, Quinn took the podium this week to talk about the team's offensive skill player needs. His message? Pure aggression. We want to attack, man. And so, however we can find ways to go do that, we will, Quinn said during media availability. We ran the most no-huddle snaps in the league. That's part of our edge. So finding guys that can attack, play in space, play with quickness, be violent in the cuts. Those are things at all the spots, running back, tight end, receivers, that we want to do. And so, we're going to keep finding guys that fit that and can attack and be aggressive. That's what we'll do. That's exactly the mindset you want to hear from the leader of this team. Washington's offense, under Cliff Kingsbury and led by young superstar Jaden Daniels, became one of the most dynamic units in the league last season. But there's always room for improvement. One area that needs addressing: the run game. While Jaden Daniels' dual threat ability masked some of the issues, Washington struggled to get consistent production from the running back position. Brian Robinson Jr. and Antonio Gibson had their moments, but neither truly dominated in a way that took pressure off Daniels. Could a new running back be on the way this offseason? Then there's the wide receiver situation. Outside of Terry McLaurin, Washington relied heavily on a wide-out-by-committee approach, especially after Noah Brown went down with an injury. Jahan Dotson had flashes, but didn't take that major leap forward many expected. Curtis Samuel was solid, but is now a free agent. That leaves a huge question mark opposite McLaurin. The Commanders made it work last season, reaching the NFC Championship game, but if they want to take that next step, they need another dynamic playmaker on the outside. So, how do they address these needs? Free agency, the NFL draft, or maybe even a blockbuster trade? With nearly $100 million in cap space, Washington has the flexibility to go big if they want to. Could someone like Mike Evans or T. Higgins be on their radar? Or maybe they go younger and look to the draft, where a deep class of wide receivers could provide the perfect long-term complement to McLaurin. At tight end, Logan Thomas has been a steady presence, but he's not getting any younger. The Commanders could look to add a younger, more explosive option at the position, either through free agency or the draft. Someone who can stretch the field and give Daniels another weapon in the passing game would be a game changer. The good news: Washington is no longer a team that free agents overlook. Thanks to the culture shift under new ownership and the incredible turnaround in 2024, the Commanders are now seen as a legitimate contender. Players want to come here. And if Adam Peters and Dan Quinn play their cards right, they can load up this roster with even more firepower before the 2025 season kicks off. So, should the Commanders push their chips to the center of the table and make a blockbuster trade for Myles Garrett? On one hand, he's an elite talent who would instantly improve Washington's pass rush. He's the kind of player who can win you games and elevate an entire defense. Plus, the Commanders have the cap space to make it work. On the other hand, the price tag is steep. Giving up multiple first-round picks means sacrificing the opportunity to build through the draft. And let's be real, Garrett might not even be available. If the Browns refuse to move him, this entire discussion becomes moot. So, now I want to hear from you. Should Washington make a move for Myles Garrett? How much would you be willing to give up in a trade? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And hey, before you go, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a Commanders update. We've got a big offseason ahead, and you know, Commanders HQ will have you covered every step of the way. See you in the next one, HTTC.